Piers Morgan has been frustrated with Harry and Meghan from the onset, but this time his frustration has gone over the roof, and now he is exposing their lies and hypocrisy. The biggest question being whispered behind closed doors is this: did Harry and Meghan really walk away from royal life to escape the spotlight, or did they simply want to control when, where, and how the spotlight followed them? Because according to Piers Morgan, the story they sold the world and the actions they took afterward do not match, and he believes the contradictions are impossible to ignore. The tension between Piers and the couple has never been subtle. It has been explosive, public, and personal. He has repeatedly criticized their choices, their interviews, and the image they have created since leaving the royal family. But this time, the anger reached another level. Piers was not just questioning decisions. He was calling out what he believed was a pattern, a carefully built narrative that started falling apart under public scrutiny.
Oh, shut up. What do you mean the stakes are this high? Who do you think you are? Other than a latte-munching imbecile living in luxury in California while the rest of the world's a cost of living crisis, moaning and whining about an institution which gave you the titles on which you now trade millions of dollars.
Piers is so furious with Harry and Meghan that even the sight of them seems to set him off. The situation became so intense that when he was given a choice between apologizing, stopping his criticism of the Harry and Meghan controversy, or losing his position, he chose to leave rather than take back his words. For him, walking away from the job was not a defeat. It became a statement that he was standing by what he said.
And eventually my boss had said, can you just apologize to Meghan Markle, or you're going to have to, maybe lose your job. I went, I'll take the job option, thanks, I'll leave. And I walked off into the sunset.
That moment became one of the most talked about examples of how heated the Harry and Meghan debate had become. He even walked away from a live television set in front of millions of viewers, showing just how strong his reaction was. But what shocked many people was not only the walkout itself, it was the fact that after that dramatic moment, his position barely changed.
To trash her.
Okay, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no.
Sorry. Do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can trash me, maybe not my
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do this.
This is absolutely diabolical behavior.
For Piers, the entire controversy begins with one major issue: privacy. When Harry and Meghan stepped away from royal duties, the message was clear. They wanted a different life, a quieter life, a life away from constant media attention. Harry spoke about wanting to protect his children from experiencing the same pressures he faced growing up in the royal spotlight. And that is where Piers believes the biggest contradiction begins. Because if privacy was truly the foundation of their new chapter, then why did their lives continue to be surrounded by some of the biggest global media moments imaginable? The interviews, the documentaries, the public appearances, the major deals, the constant headlines. Every move seemed to create even more attention. Instead of disappearing, they became one of the most discussed couples on the planet. Even when they were not officially part of royal events, they still appeared at major entertainment gatherings and high-profile occasions. Harry appeared on a widely watched interview with James Corden on an open-top Hollywood bus, a moment that instantly went viral. To many critics, including Piers, it raised a simple question: how does someone asking for privacy repeatedly end up in the center of worldwide attention?
But I hope that helps you understand what it had come to, that I would step my family back from all I have ever known, to take a step forward into what I hope can be a more peaceful life.
The criticism became even louder after the famous Oprah interview. It was one of the biggest television moments involving the royal family in modern history. Millions watched as Harry and Meghan discussed deeply personal experiences, family struggles, and their time inside the monarchy. But Piers saw something very different. He believed the interview exposed the exact contradiction he had been pointing out. They wanted distance from the media, yet they chose one of the biggest media platforms in the world to tell their story. They wanted privacy, yet their most private moments became a global event.
Harry and Meghan, the dreariest couple in the history of planet Earth, famously abandoned their royal duties for a life of privacy. They left the goldfish bowl of Great Britain with the camouflage of California, remember? Famously sheltered from the evil British press. And since then, they've kept an incredibly low profile, as they vowed to. If you excuse the massive book deals, the Silicon Valley startups, the preaching videos about well-being, the podcasts, the speeches, and the major network interviews with everyone from Oprah Winfrey to James Corden.
According to Piers, the issue was not simply that they spoke publicly. His argument was that they created a public image built around escaping public attention, while continuing to participate in some of the most high-profile media opportunities available. He questioned how someone could criticize the press while also relying on interviews, streaming projects, book deals, podcasts, and public platforms to communicate directly with millions of people. The criticism became even sharper because the couple continued making appearances that kept them in the spotlight. Meghan attended major fashion events, including moments connected with Balenciaga during Paris Fashion Week. Harry and Meghan continued to appear in spaces where cameras were guaranteed to follow. And from Piers' perspective, this was the pattern. The very system they criticized was also the system that amplified their message. The attention they rejected was also the attention that helped build their new public identity. Then came another major argument, their relationship with the British press. Piers claimed that when Meghan first entered royal life, the media response was not always negative. He argued that before the relationship became controversial, many outlets celebrated the couple and treated Meghan's arrival into the royal family as a historic moment. He pointed to the wedding coverage, the excitement, the focus on the ceremony, the fashion, the guests, and every small royal detail that captured public attention. In his view, the narrative later changed dramatically, and he believed that history was being rewritten. According to Piers, the moment criticism appeared, everything shifted. The same media that once celebrated them was suddenly described as toxic and unfair, and that, he argued, was the contradiction that bothered him most. He believed the public was being asked to forget the earlier support and only focus on the later conflict. For him, the timeline mattered, the details mattered, and he was determined to keep bringing those details back into the conversation. Piers Morgan's next target was one of the biggest issues surrounding Harry and Meghan's public image, their environmental messaging. To him, this was another example of what he viewed as a massive contradiction hiding in plain sight. The couple often spoke about sustainability, responsibility, and protecting the planet, but critics immediately pointed to their use of private jets and luxury travel. For Piers, this was not a small detail. It was a major question about whether actions were matching words. He argued that public figures who lecture others about saving the planet should also be prepared to face questions about their own choices. And in his view, the image did not line up. The criticism became even stronger because Harry and Meghan had positioned themselves as people promoting change and awareness. They were giving speeches, appearing at major events, and presenting themselves as voices for important global issues. But then came the photographs, the headlines, and the travel choices that critics believed told a completely different story. Piers argued that the contradiction was impossible to ignore. To him, it looked like they wanted the influence and status that came with being global celebrities while distancing themselves from the criticism that naturally comes with that level of fame. And then he turned his attention toward Meghan's family situation, especially her relationship with her father. This became one of the most emotionally charged points in his criticism. Piers questioned how someone could promote messages about compassion, healing, and family values while having such a fractured relationship with relatives. He focused on Thomas Markle, Meghan's father, who had been a major part of her life before their relationship became publicly strained. Piers argued that the situation raised uncomfortable questions about family, forgiveness, and whether the public image matched the private reality. His argument was not simply about one family disagreement. He saw it as another piece of a larger pattern, a pattern where public statements and personal actions appeared to be moving in opposite directions. Piers then turned his attention toward Prince Harry's memoir Spare, which became another massive global conversation. For him, the book represented one of the biggest contradictions of all. Harry had repeatedly discussed the importance of protecting privacy and avoiding media intrusion, but then he released a memoir filled with extremely personal details about his own family. To critics like Piers, the question was obvious. How can someone criticize the world for wanting access to private moments while also choosing to publicly reveal those same private moments? He believed the book transformed personal family conflicts into worldwide entertainment. The details became headlines, the disagreements became public debates, and the family tensions that once happened behind closed doors became topics discussed across the globe. Then came the Oprah interview controversy once again, but this time Piers focused on the timing. Prince Philip was seriously ill at the time, and the royal family was dealing with a difficult moment. Piers questioned why Harry and Meghan chose that particular period to make such major accusations publicly. In his view, it was not just about what was said, but when it was said. He believed that family loyalty should have been considered, especially when an elderly family member was facing health struggles. To Piers, the timing made the situation even more controversial and added another layer to the debate. The pandemic also became part of his criticism. While millions of people around the world were dealing with unemployment, grief, isolation, and fear, Harry and Meghan were discussing their own struggles from a mansion in California. Piers argued that many people could not relate to that experience. He questioned whether public figures living such privileged lives understood how their messages would be received during a global crisis. Then came another major disagreement: mental health. Harry has openly discussed his struggles, pressure, and the impact of media attention. Piers argued that those experiences could be real while still believing that criticism should not automatically be dismissed. His argument was that public figures cannot demand understanding while refusing to answer difficult questions. He believed there was a difference between discussing vulnerability and using vulnerability as a shield from all criticism. The debate became even more intense when the discussion returned to Princess Diana. Harry has often spoken about fears of history repeating itself and the pain connected to what happened to his mother, but Piers completely rejected the comparison. He argued that Diana's circumstances were unique and that comparing her situation to Harry and Meghan's modern experience was unfair. For him, Diana's story belonged to a different era, with different pressures and a completely different media environment. He believed using her legacy in this debate was something that needed to be handled carefully. Piers stated that after knowing both women, he saw major differences between Princess Diana and Meghan Markle. He argued that the comparisons did not make sense and that Diana's experiences should not be used as a direct comparison for every modern royal controversy. And that is why this battle continues. It is no longer just about one interview, one book, one appearance, or one disagreement. It has become a much bigger argument about image, reputation, truth, and whether public figures can control the story they tell while the public watches every move.